When something defies laws that we normally observe, someone insists it still happened, i.e., despite it not being logically true, someone says it is true. And then you need to ask for evidences. Sun setting in a black muddy pool of water doesn't appear to be logical. That's not our experience. And therefore, to me, it seems like that is a blatant error. You were so adamant on sticking to the literal detail, because it is that literal detail which to you tells that the Quran is from God. And therefore, I'd like to also stick to very literal details in other words, according to you, when the Quran gets scientific details wrong, you're not supposed to look at it literally.
I believe in my predecessors. The people that preserved my deen and founded my deen. I've got full faith in them.
Just rewind, listen to your statement, your own statement, and see what you were saying. I'm not a historian. I don't care about that. You believe in what your predecessors told you. That's what you just said. In other words, that's what we call as blind. Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross, and the writing was, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Then many of the Jews read this title, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Why were three specific languages chosen to write this specific title on the cross? Three specific languages: Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. This is the proof.
It's a proof. We know that now.
Man who does magic. His name's Harry Potter. Believe in it.
Excuse me.
Why should I believe that?
On what basis are you discrediting the manuscriptal evidence they already gave you? Under 100 papyrus fragments from the first couple of centuries, just under 300 Greek uncial manuscripts from the first 10 centuries, just under 3,000 Greek minuscule manuscripts. Apart from these Greek manuscripts, we have manuscripts from at least 12 other languages.
You have no
Syriac, Coptic, Ethiopic,
He's just questioning
Latin.
why they were in Greek, seeing as Jesus
like
came from the Middle East.
The point is this. These are specific details that I am providing you. You are discrediting all of these based on one simple statement which you quoted earlier, which is from the Quran, which came several centuries later. Now, you need to explain to me how precisely are you discrediting the information I'm giving you about the manuscripts based on the Quran.
Okay,
And
How
tell the
logical
Quran,
is that?
well, let me explain it to you. Yeah.
Where's the Quran?
We have, for historical references, when Islam was revealed, we have what we call hadith.
I'm not
Now,
asking.
wait, let me explain.
I'm
Let
not
me explain.
asking.
Let me explain, because I let you speak. Let me speak. Yeah. In the hadith, if someone says Muhammad did this or Muhammad said that, yeah, we have a chain of narrators. So we might have 4 people in the chain. So I saw Muhammad. I heard from such and such. We heard from such and such. We heard from such and such. We know who these 3 that saw Muhammad do this. It's all recorded before it was written down. We can go and look. Did this person exist? Was this person a liar? Was this person known to have a bad memory? We know who these people were that are in this chain of narrations. What you're providing with me has no chain of narration, it just has one man. John.
Hey, where's the
John
Quran
who?
now?
Where's the rest of the people in the chain? There's no one in the chain. There's nobody there. So why would I accept these historical references when you have nobody there that I can actually say, yeah, this man knew this man, and he knew that man, and he knew that man, and that man was with Jesus. You have nothing like that. So I will not accept it.
You seem, the points that I made to you a bit earlier seem to have all gone like that for you. I don't know why, and I'd like to, and I'd like to re-mention all those points for you to carefully listen, please.
Are you going to answer my
Hey,
question?
listen.
I'm going to answer
Where's
it.
your men? Going
Listen.
back to this historical reference. Where is your men?
So, if you are willing to listen now, let me begin. Yeah, I'm going to repeat some of the points which I made earlier. Now, we have four.
Remember, hundreds of manuscripts in Greek from all these different places. That's what you said. But he's questioning the chain of narration.
I began by saying we have four specific gospels. Matthew, what we call Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. The chain begins there. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. You asked me what Matthew's surname was. I gave you a precise surname.
Yes.
Matthew called Levi. Mark called John Mark. Luke, the physician.
Doctor.
The writer of the Gospel of John is called someone whom the Lord loved. That is a specific description. These four specific people writing four specific Gospels for which we have manuscriptal evidence, which is what more importantly we care about to establish some to be historical.
Okay, and how do you establish that?
We have manuscriptal evidence going back. The earliest manuscriptal evidence that we have is not far away from here. It is in Manchester. Papyrus 52, P52, manuscriptal fragment is not far away from here. Takes us back.
How do I know it's not made up?
Well, now,
What proof is it?
Hey,
that man didn't write it out?
listen.
excuse me, one second. Firstly, you listen and then you try and see how you can criticize. There is no point in criticizing something which you do not know. So first thing that you need to do before you establish if something is real is get to know the narration corresponding to the document. First get to know the story before you find holes in the story. Very important. Now, that is where I am saying P52 based on analysis of the writing, Greek writing in that manuscriptal fragment is dated to early 2nd century. The earliest of manuscript that we have for the New Testament, early 2nd century, P52.
What do you mean 200 years after the prophet, after Jesus went? Is that what you're
I
saying?
said early 2nd century, 125 AD is
That's
what
the
this is
earliest.
dated to.
That's the earliest you have.
The earliest fragment that we have is from 125 AD.
Well, that's ridiculous.
What do you mean that's ridiculous?
Do you have anything to
120
show?
years is the earliest recording that
When
you
was
have.
Jesus born?
Huh?
When was Jesus
You
born?
tell me.
No, you gave me a
you
number
said you know.
120 years.
You just said the 120 years.
You said that right now. I'm asking you, when was Jesus born?
You tell me when Jesus. You're the
4
Christian.
around 4 BC. Yeah. So 0 is supposed to be the time Jesus was born, not the time Jesus was ministering. Jesus began his ministry when he was about 30 years.
so
No,
90 years.
don't critique before you listen. Don't do that, because that would not take you anywhere, would it?
Criticizing. You're saying 90
You
years.
listen.
90
Where
years
did
is
you
what
get
you're
up?
saying.
Where did you come up with the number 120 before?
Because you said 120 BC. AD.
Yeah, that's the date I gave to the manuscript. You said that's 120 years since Jesus.
Alright, so call it 90 years then.
No, before you shift your 120 to
Call it
90.
90 years. It's still a long time.
Excuse me, my dear friend. Before you recalibrate your measurements, I'd like you, in the context of knowing that you did not get the context right before, I'd like you to listen carefully first, and then critically evaluate. Yeah, 125 AD. Now, take any other historical document in the entire human history. Nothing comes even closer to this 30 minus 125 minus 30. Yeah, nothing comes anywhere close to that. Nothing does. Nothing does. Quran, no. No other literature, no.
Nothing.
Historical works of Herodotus, no. Historical works of Pliny the Younger, no.
No.
No other historical document even comes close to what I am talking about. Tell me where.
Alright, so in
Which language was
in
it?
Islam, we have a specific type of hadith called the golden chain of hadith. Now these hadith were recorded by one of our famous
One
scholars,
time.
Imam Malik. So this was about 100 years after the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him. But in these hadith, yeah, he got this hadith. He says, I learned this hadith from my teacher. My teacher was, I think, the freed slave of a companion of the Prophet, peace be upon him, who got it from the companion. So he says, I learned this from my teacher. My teacher was the freed slave. The freed slave got it from his teacher, and his teacher was the companion of the Prophet, and the companion of the Prophet got it directly from Muhammad. So what we have is a document, and in it we have the men going all the way back to the Prophet. And we know these men existed, and we know they're of good character, and we know they don't lie. So our document is solid. Your document, let me finish. Let me finish. This guy, your document, just appears 90 years after.
He's just questioning what tools you use to verify.
Choose any one example of a writer of a hadith literature. Yeah, choose any one example. Prove to me how precisely you know that they won't lie. Because you just mentioned a minute ago, you said, we know they do not lie. Prove to me, please. Explain to me, please. How do we know?
Excuse me, can you prove you good? Can you prove you good?
Hey, we are talking to him.
So now he's saying, yeah. Can you prove? He asking you.
I am satisfied that
Let
they
him
won't
prove.
lie.
Can you prove
In other
it?
words,
So-
you saying we know is
I'm satisfied that they don't lie.
Other question.
But when you come up, 1 second, when you come up with a document 90 years after Isa left this earth, 90 years later, you just got a document with no tools to actually verify that this document didn't just come from anywhere. Why would I believe that? You're not satisfying me to believe that. Anyone could have wrote that document.
I'm not satisfying you because you haven't got a clue about how historians approach study of history. Let me finish. Let me finish. I'm talking about no.
I'm not as satisfied with the way you do it. That's what I care about.
Can I now
I'm not
respond?
satisfied with this Greek.
Can I now
90
respond?
years later,
Can
I
I-
don't trust him.
Listen.
I don't trust this Greek. Who is he?
There's no point to
I
talk
don't
to
trust
them.
this man.
I think the only reason
Can I please now respond?
The question is easy.
Can I please now respond?
It's not even in the language
Yeah.
that Jesus spoke.
Can I now please respond?
Greece is
Did
very
the
far
cheesy
away.
told you like shouting?
Come on, man.
Please, can
We're
I
getting
now
nowhere though.
respond?
We're
Did the
getting
cheesy
nowhere.
told you
Can I
shouting?
please
Ah,
now
go on,
respond? Yeah? Now, you need to get to know the basics of how historians approach history. Not how religious person like you approaches history, but how historians approach history. No historian would ever say, I know this guy would not lie. No historian would ever say that. That'll be a fundamental mistake a historian would make. Any historical document, of course true. If you did not... What?
I'm not a
Excuse
historian. I believe in my predecessors. The people that preserved my deen and founded my deen. I've got full faith in them.
Just rewind, listen to your statement, your own statement, and see what you were saying. I'm not a historian. I don't care about that. You believe in what your predecessors told you. That's what you just said. In other words, that's what we call as blind faith. In the words of what you used earlier, you do not care about critically analyzing, i.e. being a historian. What you rather care about is believing what your predecessors told you. Now, unfortunately though, I do know for a fact that there are plenty of liars in the world.
Oh, yes.
Plenty. For all that you know, you might have lied in your life. I have lied in my life. And I'm not sure if there is anyone who has not lied in our lives. So, what?
Imam, listen, there's 3 ways that someone attains truth. Yeah, there's 3 ways. One of them is through observation, Newton's law. The other way, is through reliable reports. If your mum come to you and said, son, there's a fire down there, you need to leave, are you going to say, mum, I think you're lying? No, because you trust your mum, even though your mum could be lying. It's the black
My
truth.
dear friend, according to you,
Yeah.
you are looking for literal details, which are, according to you, scientific miracles. According to you, you were so eager.
wait.
You were so eager in talking about how everything came from water. You were so
Every
lit.
living thing, yeah.
You were so you were so adamant on sticking to the literal detail, because it is that literal detail which to you tells that the Quran is from God. And therefore, I'd like to also stick to very literal details in the in other words, according to you,
told
when
you
the
that.
Quran gets scientific details
told you
wrong,
why.
you're not supposed to look at it literally.
wait.
When
Let me
it
tell you why.
when
Wait,
certain
let me tell you
verses
why.
seem.
Let
No,
me
wait a
tell you
second.
why. Let me tell you
Now,
why.
according
Because
to
in the
Hey,
Quran-
no, why?
according
the
to
Quran
you,
says, in the Quran says that there is two types of verses. There are verses which are mukimat, clear-cut verses, and there are verses which are mutashabihat, unclear verses. Yeah? And God says about the unclear verses, no one knows their meaning.
Can you believe in this logic? I come around and I say I am God. And then you think, okay, oh, you are God, okay, try and give me some evidences. And then I make a few points. Some of them are accurate, some of them are inaccurate. And then you say, oh, some of your points seem to be inaccurate. And then you let me say, oh, I make two kinds of statements. Some of them are supposed to be, some of them are supposed to be taken literally. If you were offended by some other details that I'm providing, please do not take that literally. Is that the logic to follow? The one who is claiming, letting him also provide the additional details.
Let's follow logic. Let's follow logic. You want to talk about logic? Newton's law says that you cannot have two things. You cannot have one thing in two different places at the same time. Yeah. Newton's law says you cannot. So you don't even know Newton's law.
My knowledge doesn't talk about one thing not being anywhere else. No.
Listen, you want to talking about logic, yeah? Now I'm telling you something.
law has nothing to say about one thing not being present in two places. Nothing. Newton's law has nothing to say about. You're not even listening, are you?
Listen!
Newton's law hasn't anything to say about that.
Proves that wrong
Where
anyway.
is
That's the point I'm trying to say.
talking about?
Quantum physics. Quantum physics throws all your logic out the window. Quantum physics.
What are you talking about? Newton never mentioned that. You can't tell things which you think Newton said and ascribe that to Newton. Newton, shall I read Newton's law for you? Shall I read Newton's law for you?
What I'm
Please.
trying to say is, if you can't, what I'm trying to say, yeah, is that sometimes things will seem logical to you, and other times they will seem illogical to you. Just because you don't understand it does not mean that it's not true. Does not mean that it's not happening.
Wait a second, my dear friend. Let's be careful here. So earlier you said the way in which you understand the Quran to be from God is through the scientific details which Quran alone revealed at that time, according to you. And I asked you, by that same vein, if we find scientific details which are now established to be inaccurate, would you say it is not? I didn't say, would you say if it is not from God? I asked you, what would you make out of that? And you said, you volunteered and said, if there are details which are found to be inaccurate, then Quran is not from God. That's what you said. Now, we have just spoken about a fact, a statement in the Quran which is completely inaccurate according to scientific details that we know of, and now you are saying there may appear to be things which are against logic, is what you are saying. You are now saying there may appear to be things which may sound to be against logic, is what you're saying. And you were even intending to show Newton's law as an evidence for that. For finding things which even defy logic.
No, I wasn't.
So what was the exact point about Newton's law?
I was saying that Newton's law says, yeah, you cannot have one thing in two different places. That's Newton's law.
That's not Newton's law.
What law is that? Whose law is that?
Newton never said that, but go on. Anyway,
All right, mate. What's calm down with the light, yeah? So the point is that what's he doing with the light? He's going for it, isn't he?
I'll read to you Newton's
Anyway,
law. Newton's first law states that every object will remain at rest or in uniform motion in the same straight line unless compelled to change its state by the action of an external force. That's Newton's first law of motion. Yeah. Second law of motion has to do with acceleration, F is equal to ma. And the second law explains how the velocity of an object changes when it is subjected to an external force. The law defines a force to be equal to change in momentum, which is mass time velocity, per change in time. Newton also developed the calculus of mathematics and so on. So that is Newton's second law. The third law states that for, these are Newton's law of motion, by the way. The third law states that for every action in nature, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That's Newton's third law of motion. Apart from Newton's law of motion, Newton also had a law of gravitation. He had a few other laws like that. Now, which specific law are you quoting to say that one thing cannot be at two different places at the same time? Newton, what?
Can you be here and in America at the same time?
Can I be? No, I can't.
Right. So this is what we have.
Nothing to do with Newton.
All right. So the point is that what we observe, what we accepted up until recently, yeah, is that one thing cannot be in two different places at the same time.
No one accepted that.
No one accepted. What is he talking about, bro?
God, that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Now the point I'm trying to
case.
say. Anyway, look. The point I'm trying to say is quantum physics came along and changed our understanding of reality. Yeah.
Only on the quantum level,
The
though.
case a long time ago.
on the quantum
King
level.
King David prophesied, if I go to the depths of the water, you are there. If I climb up the highest of mountains, you are there. If I go there, you are there. If I go there. So the Hebrew scriptures was quite clear. Well, you were talking about something, anything. I'm talking about God.
Let's get to the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is, though, even though something might not seem logical to you, that does not mean that it is false. That's the point I'm trying to make.
That's a good point. But let me respond. Let me please respond to that. If something does not, if something does not seem to be logical, it is true that it is not necessarily false. But I'll add a huge caveat to this, which is, if something does not seem to be logical, yet someone is claiming that to be true, you better ask for evidences. Especially because logic doesn't support it. And that's what we say about miracles. Miracles defy normal physical course of actions. I agree. But especially in the case of miracles, if someone says, this guy walked on water, I'd like to say, well, that defies physical laws, and therefore give me some evidences. When something defies laws that we normally observe, someone insists it still happened, i.e. despite it not being logically true, someone says it is true. And then you need to ask for evidences. Sun setting in a black muddy pool of water doesn't appear to be logical. That's not our experience. And therefore, to me, it seems like that is a blatant error. Now, when there is such a blatant error, the point I'd like to make is, you better say, show me. Okay, let's read the verse. Who has got a Quran with you? Have you got a Quran? On the phone, yeah. English translate. Yeah. Can I please have that?
Read the whole.
Everything, whole. Yeah, we'll read everything. No problem.
I mean, it's obvious that he says it.
No. Don't talk about him. He's not allowed. No, please, excuse me.
No,
my dear friend. No. Don't do that.
Get it out.
Please don't do that. Let us see what you think God himself said, and let us read that. You don't have to worry about what he thinks. If he goes somewhere, Black Sea or White Sea or whatever, none of those things. Oops, sorry. Can you please? None of those things matter. Let's read what it says.
It's obviously a descriptive term. Obviously, the sun doesn't go into the sea. You think?
Leave it.
No, it's not. No, because you lack just normality. When you're standing on the beach or when you go on holiday, people watch the sun go down. People don't
No
go, oh
one-
my God, the sun's gone into the
If
sea.
someone comes
We
to
know
meet
the
me
sun-
tomorrow and said the sun sets, excuse me, my dear friend, if someone comes to me and said the sun,
Read it as a description in the book. Oh my God, the Quran's wrong. The sun's going into the sea. It's a
Excuse me.
stupidity, bruv. It's like you're wrong. Use your sense.
He said
Adab,
the man
Adab,
went
Adab.
so far
Adab.
west
He's got an agenda.
that he saw where the sun
Read
set.
the Quran.
He
He
said he
thinks he
sat
has
on a muddy
something.
pool and he said that there were people there.
Bruv,
And
listen.
the people there, they were
I
sweating.
know the verse.
from
I read it all the
fact
time.
that-
I know the verse. I read it all the time. Listen. If I'm facing that way, for example, look, let's all turn around that way. It's because the sun's actually going down over there. Is the sun setting in the earth?
No, but he said that a man went so far
Subhanallah.
west.
So
No,
listen,
but he said,
if
he
he
said a
goes
man,
west, can he not
and he
face any
said,
other direction?
We don't need this. Come back to India. Yeah, okay. You know what I'm saying? Come on, let me talk to you about Shiva. Come. Let me talk to you about Ganesh.
Shiva doesn't help us. Shiva
You don't need
doesn't.
all this. Let them argue. Let them settle it.
Facing west, you can face any
When you're free, I'll talk to you about Shiva and Ganesh, innit?
Shiva, no, yeah, okay. My dear friend, I'm reading to you now. Surah 18, Ayah 83 onwards. They ask you about Zulkarnain. Say, I will tell you something about him. We established him on earth. Who is speaking here? Apparently Allah. We established him on earth and gave him all kinds of means. He pursued a certain course. Yeah? God is speaking according to you. Are you listening?
I'm listening.
And he says he pursued a certain course until when he reached the setting of the sun. So this information is from God himself according to you. When he reached the setting of the sun, he found it setting in a murky spring and found the people in its vicinity. This is from God's own mouth according to you. Now, here is my problem. Now, you were, of course, trying to say, well, that's what he saw, that's his experience. But it seems like to me, this is information coming from the mouth of,
Says he
according to
found
you.
it setting.
Yeah, but who is speaking? Who is saying he?
Oh, God.
Who is saying we established him on earth? In verse
It
84.
says he found the sun setting.
Let me ask you this. Let me
His
ask you this.
experience.
Let me ask you this. If the sun did not set in that black muddy pool of water, if this person thought it was setting there, could Allah ever, could the true God who knows the signs and wonders and whatever else, could he ever say, this guy saw this setting in that black muddy pool of water? Could he say that? Or would he say, this fool thought it set there, but it never happened there? What would he say?
Look, firstly, God does things for many reasons, yeah?
No.
Let me explain something.
I am trying to see.
Listen, I'm not
I'm trying to see.
I'll answer it in my own way. God does things for many reasons. By describing it like this, we can actually pinpoint where Darkon name was. There's many reasons why God could have explained it like this. But the point is, we know where all this took place because of this description.
Can I now respond to that? So it is true. God could do various things for various reasons. But the problem I have right now is I do not even think this is from God, and that's precisely where you came in to help us in saying the science proves us that this is from God. But the fact of the matter is there is anti-science also there, and therefore I am still suspecting that this is perhaps not from God. And you were saying God could do multiple things for all. I agree. But this one, how do you know this is from God when there are blatant errors? How do you know this is from God when there are blatant errors? Now, going back to what we were talking about, the more important subject, which is Jesus Christ. Now,
Hold on, listen.
in the Bible,
You ain't proved nothing by what you just said.
No,
there's
I
many
proved
scientific miracles in the Quran. You got
Which
one
is-
statement, yeah, which you choose to be literalist about. Yeah, you ain't proven nothing. And by the way, from the beginning of Islam until today, not one Muslim scholar of the Quran or any Muslim has ever believed, yeah, that the sun sets in a murky pool. Because that is
problem.
just stupid.
Exactly my
Forget
problem.
that. Forget
How
all of
come
that,
you
mate.
have-
Drop that out.
no, my dear friend, that's exactly my problem. How can you have a specific statement which even human beings do not believe in, which you think is from God? How can that be true?
Right, look, the sun's going down, bruv. Look, the sun's
Even
going down over there.
no, 1 second.
But the sun's going down right
Excuse
there.
me.
We know it's not
I
there.
would never ever say the sun
Going
set.
down into the earth. You can see
It,
it.
you can say it, I wouldn't say that.
The sun travels away like
You
that.
can say that if you wanted to, I wouldn't say that.
The sun doesn't go down into the earth. It travels
You
away.
can say
It
that,
looks
I would not say that.
Alright, so what happens then?
You can say that, I would not say
What
that.
happens to it then? Where's the sun going right now?
The sun rotates, the sun is going on an orbit, the earth is going on an orbit around the sun, but the sun is going on its own orbit in heaven. Now,
So, where they converge, where they meet, it looks like the sun's going
for you. That's not, that's
what we can see,
that's
what we
not,
observe.
that's not
When
what the
sun goes
Quran
down,
says.
it doesn't go
That's
further.
not what the Quran says. That's your interpretation here.
Just-
Now, can I
not allowed for the sun to reach the moon, nor does the night overtake the day. But each in an orbit is swimming. Yeah. Now that swimming part is very descriptive. I'll tell you why. Because the sun, it goes around the Milky Way like this, but it doesn't actually just go like that. It actually goes like that. Yeah. So right there, we've got a verse telling you not only is well, it doesn't mention it, but it basically says that the sun is in an orbit. Yeah. Now that is miraculous from our perspective.
Simple, let's get back to this. Earlier,
He's an asshole. He's got
what?
an agenda.
Show to what?
Huh?
Show what?
It is not allowed for the sun to reach the moon, nor does the night overtake the day. But each sun and moon are in orbit. So not only is the moon in an orbit, but the sun is in an orbit, and they're swimming.
Can
yeah?
It's called gravity.
Can I, excuse me, my dear friend,
No. Well, you're at the wrong point.
my dear friend, my entire point was this, yeah? The Quran came in the 7th century,
Okay.
yeah? Well before the Quran came into human history, well before that, the Chinese, more than a millennia before that, the Chinese had mapped many astronomical bodies.
Okay, this is
They had very clear knowledge of astronomy, the Chinese.
Did they? That's great.
Of course they did. Now let me finish.
Okay.
So I'm not saying people did not know that the sun never meets the moon. I did not ever say that. Of course people knew that well before
know
that.
that the sun is
Well
in the
before
orbit?
that. Can I please finish? Well before that people knew it.
All right, you tell me.
Can
where
I
the
finish, please?
Just show me where the Chinese have documented that the sun is in an orbit. That's all I want. Show me where the Chinese, the Egyptians, the Sumerians, the Greeks, the Romans. Just give me any one of them that says the sun is in an orbit, and I will never quote that verse again. You've got no one. Nothing. All you have is the Quran telling you that the sun is in an orbit. Bruv, you will be accountable because you hear the evidences a lot, and you still disbelieving. I'd be very worried if I was you.
Can I stick to simple logic, deal with the facts that we dealt with earlier before you may go on to make your fantastic points there, please? The point is simple. Even the question that we asked was, originally the question was, how do you establish that the Quran is from God? That's a simple question we began with. And there, your first point, of course you did mention there are multiple ways of establishing this. And I'd like to hear your points 2, 3 and whatever. But the first point you made was about the great scientific miracles, science in your words, science in the Quran. There my point. Soon after you mentioned there are great scientific science in the Quran, the question I asked to you was simple, which was, if you have many statements in the Quran which are understood to be scientifically accurate today, but if you find some statements
One
which
is enough.
which are found to be scientifically inaccurate, what would you make out of that was my question. And you were very intelligent at that time, because at that time you did not go around this and that beating the bush. No, at that time you were crystal clear in your response. You said, if there is one point which is against science, then you could say this is not from God. That's what you said earlier. And therefore, my point was simple. Mathematics tells me, if I have a theorem, if there are 100 evidence points which supports the theorem, but if there is one evidence point which goes against the theorem is still not true. That's pure simple mathematics. So regardless of how many things you show me, if I show you 1 point,
You showed me 1 point.
the sun
You showed
setting
me
in a
half a
black
point.
muddy pool of water,
You've not shown
how
me
long?
It's figurative.
I want to take everything literally.
That's extreme.
Stupid.
In the Quran, God says,
I want to take everything in equal vein. If you want to take one statement literally, I'd like to take another statement literally. If you want to be flexible about the statement that you are showing and say, maybe it didn't mean it literally,
maybe.
about
Of course it didn't.
the statement about the sun going in an orbit, are you going to take that literally or not?
That is literal. Why not?
So anything which is consistent with what we have observed, you choose to take that literally. purely because it satisfies you.
Consistent with science, my friend.
In other words,
Consistent with
in
science.
other words, it seems like your measuring rod is not the Quran but science. You are going by science as your reference point. If science tells you something, and if the Quran seems to say that, then you say it is supposed to be taken literally. That's what you're saying.
You must use your own senses.
Wait, listen,
Excuse
look,
me, sir,
I
that's not the
disagree.
point. The point is
You've
simple.
not established to me
No
your
one,
point.
if your
It's not
teacher...
established.
Well, I can't...
Nobody here believes what you're saying. Look, we've never believed that the
someone
sun sits in a muddy pool.
Let me ask you a simple question.
Go on.
Can you fight with a fool and win? Please let me know.
You tell me.
No, you tell me.
You tell me. I'm not going to answer
I
that question.
don't think so. So I won't be able to establish.
A simple fact to someone who chooses to be deliberately blind. I won't be able to. It's a simple fact.
You're being blind. You're being
You
blind.
acknowledge that it doesn't
Sun
mean
setting
that.
in a black muddy pool of water.
Bro, it's experiential. If you're looking at the Black Sea, when the sun sets, that's what it looks like.
How many of you here would say the sun sets in a black muddy pool of water? How many would say that? How many of you would say sun sets in a black muddy pool of water? How many of you would say
That's
that?
the sun set in the sea. When you stand on the beach and the sun
Did I
goes
ever
down.
say sun sets in a sea? I never said that, so don't talk about that. How many of you would ever say sun sets in a black muddy pool of water? How many would do that?
He's standing at a lake. He's standing at a lake. The sun's gone down.
I'm not asking
The
you
lake
for
was
your
dark and
fantasy
murky.
stories here. I'm asking you for a simple yes or no here. How many of you here would say the sun sets in a black muddy pool of water? How many of you would say that?
Allow me, innit?
You yourself said no scholar, Islamic scholar believes in that. You yourself said that. In other words,
Hey, look, sorry, what's your name? Dave. Dave, believe it is a description, my friend. So even Dave knows his description. What is going on with you?
what do you mean by description?
Look, the Quran is true. Reason being, it says that Don Cornane travelled to the
I only
west.
came here because I saw it on YouTube.
The west. If you're looking at the Black Sea, if you stand like this, the Black Sea will be it will be in the west. So it's clear that when he looks at the Black Sea and the sun sets, yeah, it looks like it is setting in the sea, but it doesn't mean it's setting in the sea. Do you understand
Your
that?
point.
It's very simple.
So your point
It's
is
not hard to understand.
your point is simple. Whatever. So your earlier point was Quran is true because I choose to ignore everything which goes in the Quran which goes against the truth. That's your earlier point. Quran is true is how you began your statement.
Quran is the truth.
The Quran is the truth because you choose to ignore parts of the Quran which are not true.
Which part? Which part? Yeah. Which part?
And later you are clarifying parts of the Quran which don't seem to be true. You choose to not take literally. Who tells you that?
People that have knowledge.
No, the people
The scholars.
with knowledge doesn't come.
God.
They're not here to tell us if we need to take that statement literally or not. You are telling me. Who told you that sun setting in a black muddy pool of water should be taken literally or not? Who told you that?
Who told you to take it literally?
I don't need to be told that. Why do I need to be taken
It
that?
was appeared to that man. So
That's what we're trying
that's
to...
what in the Quran it says. It says
Dave understands. David understands. Look, David understands.
Okay.
He doesn't understand.
Okay, read the verse. Read the verse.
Understand it.
Okay.
He doesn't get it.
They are three against one, brother. India. You should come back home.
So
We're trying to say that this is one... What are you trying to say? No, what he's trying to say, I said to him, we believe Quran
Are you
is
Ibn
from God.
Kathir? Are you Ibn Kathir to decide if the Quran is literal or not?
would I ever say that? Does it even matter? I'm not sure why you're bringing in people. People try to hide behind plenty of details because that is convenient for them. Let's read that verse simple. Quran Surah 18, Ayah 84 and forward. We established him on earth and gave him all kinds of means. So here, according to you, it is Allah himself who is speaking according to you. Yeah? We established him on earth and gave him all kinds of means. So according to you, it is Allah who is speaking. And therefore, I'd like to listen to some words of wisdom from Allah himself. But what does he go on to say? He pursued a certain course until when he reached the setting of the sun. Zulkarnain isn't the one who is speaking here. It is the one who established him who is speaking according to you. And he says, until when he reached the setting of the sun.
Yes.
So Allah is saying he reached a specific point, which according to Allah is the setting of the sun. According to Allah. And
The sun was going down. That's what it means.
no, it doesn't say Zulkarnain thought that, no. It says until when he reached the setting of the sun. Who is the one who is speaking? Allah himself. Allah himself. And he said he found it. Allah is testifying that Zulkarnain found it. He found it setting in a murky spring.
Okay, okay.
Not Black Sea, spring. Murky spring. In some other translations, black, muddy pool. Not a sea, but a pool of water. And found a people in its vicinity. What else does he find there? Near Black Sea. What else does he find? And found a people in its vicinity.
Okay. Hello, hi, I'm here. Can I reply?
Merely because you're here, you don't have to reply. We're speaking in
Oh, some other conversation here.
Hello, hi.
Hey, we are listening to him.
So the point, my dear friend, is simple. There are statements in the Quran which are scientifically problematic. That's all I'm saying now. You, my dear friend, and all the other friends here have to very importantly deal with fundamental facts. I read to you all the time you were here. I do not know. Can you read or not?
Yes.
If you can, please read.
Where does it say Allah found it in the murky water?
Please don't put me on that. Move back.
Why are you trying to push me? So,
Where does it show Allah?
you don't hear because I'm not speaking to you now. So we were speaking about Jesus on the cross. Very important.
What happened to love your enemies? Why you bothering us?
Jesus on the cross testified by the Greek manuscripts of the Gospels. And I mentioned to you, apart from the Greek manuscripts, we also have manuscripts in at least 12 other ancient languages.
Can you please show me where it says Allah found it in the murky water?
On top of that,
Can you show me where it says Allah
Tacitus,
found it in the murky water?
Pliny the Younger,
Please show me where it says
Josephus,
Allah found it in the murky water. Please show us. Please show us.
Suetonius,
Please show us where it says Allah found it in the murky water.
historians talking
Please,
about
can
the
you show
fact
us
of
where it says
Jesus
Allah-
being
Mr. Christian,
crucified
record this.
and
Mr.
Christians
Christian, can you
later
show-
on
Can you show me
knowing.
where Allah- Can you tell me where Allah says that
I
He
said
found
I
it in the murky
can't
water?
because I read that to
Thank
you for a
you.
few minutes and you wouldn't want to listen. Why should I repeat that?
You don't want to listen.
They come here and say Jesus said love your
Love
enemies.
yourself,
We love
love
your
your
enemies.
enemy.
Don't love me like that.
Ali, the love that you need.
Everybody.
Ali, the love that you need to
Ali,
receive today
love your neighbor.
is for you to know there is such a thing called truth. There is such a thing called truth. And that is Jesus Christ. You need to follow Jesus Christ, and that is by telling you that we are showing our love to you. So, my dear friends, in all humility and respect to each one of you, especially the Muslims, may I please comment before you, it is extremely important for all of us to establish if the Quran is truly from God or not. That's very important for us to establish. And that is precisely where I'd like to see a logical argument which leads us to conclude the Quran is from God. And that is where our friend earlier with whom I was talking said scientific miracles revealed in the Quran tells us that Quran is from Allah. If it is true, I'm quite glad to receive it. But the question is it true? And that is where he pointed out to a few statements and said these are scientific miracles. But in the same vein, I am pointing out to a specific verse in the Quran which seems to blatantly go against scientific evidence. And therefore, if everything else tells us it is from Allah, this specific inaccuracy tells us it could not be from God. And therefore, weigh all things together. When you weigh all things together, using science to establish the origin of Quran to be divine is not a logical argument, because there are evidences which are against it. My dear friends, take this extremely seriously. Return back to the Jesus of the Bible, who alone is able to help you, who alone is the true God. In what he said, there is no shadow of lie, but everything that he said is true. Jesus wants to save you, and Jesus alone is able to give you eternal life.